we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. I'm your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast, go on ahead, hit us up on our DMs at the Bigmark Pod or at the Bigmark Podcast on our X or on our Instagram, respectively. You can always donate to the podcast if you feel like it. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. If you do really want to help out the podcast, make sure you tell your friends, share the podcast, like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube and all that fun stuff. And again, keep coming back for more because I really appreciate each and every one of you. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. And again, if you told one friend, we can double the podcast overnight. So thank you guys. Thanks for being here. We'll do it. We'll keep it up. We'll keep it rocking. Keep having fun. Keep talking about weird topics that don't make sense one week to another. But hey, welcome to the Mind of Bigmark. We're talking about Transformers today, and it's a tough title because, I mean, again, it's mostly about the 2007 movie Transformers. I just watched it. I was just I'm moving into a new place. The studio looks exactly the same because we'll be in here for a couple more weeks. But for all intents and purposes, I moved out of this place. I'm in my new place and living there. But it's things are a little bit up in the air. But my internet isn't hooked up, so I've been watching some old movies that I found, old DVDs, old burnt DVDs actually from back in the day. Just checking them out because, again, I got no internet, so I got no streaming. So I'm going old school with it. I'm getting the discs out, folks. I'm getting the discs out. So anyway, I found Transformers, the first one. This is the first movie with Shia LaBeouf from 2007. Action sci-fi movie based on the Hasbro toys. Again, if no one knows what Transformers are, I could probably do an entire podcast on just the toys alone and the shows that went along with it. I mean, back in the day, I think it would have been around the 80s when they first came on the scene. It was, still the time of He-Man, and I know that there was like My Little Pony and other like more girl-directed ones. Barbie. There was basically a show. It was kind of like, it was a bit of a chicken and egg scenario a little bit, but realistically, like He-Man, for instance, they kind of wrote the show based around the toys that were coming out, or they would come up with a new toy and they'd have to like write in a new character into the show. So, they kind of took that model and ran with it. And it kind of, I think, depends on the show. I mean, some shows, they develop a toy based on the show and they kind of go from there. I know they did that for a lot of the Batman stuff because obviously it existed already. But then again, like I said, stuff like Transformers and G.I. Joe, they're making toys. They're making the show, to basically sell the toys. So again, brilliant marketing scheme. You can totally look at it that way. You can look at it like a greasy marketing scheme because it's going at kids bad. But Transformers was the shit, and it had a mega grip on me as a kid. I used to love those toys. Beast Wars was a huge thing for me as a kid. So a lot of my toys were like the Beast Wars characters. So again, the general concept is there's these kind of alien mechanical beings, their blood is like hydraulic fluid, and it's as if their evolutionary line, instead of being flesh and bone, they evolved out of like metal and fucking rubber and shit, basically. Not even, it's just like whatever. I don't even really understand. I don't even know if they really understand. Like, what is a Transformer that isn't like, that's just on Cybertron without, they're kind of like this weird alien being, but they're kind of, that's super strange. Because when they come to Earth, they disguise themselves as robots in disguise. So they're disguised as, originally anyway, they're disguised as human vehicles. So the Decepticons, who are the bad guys, they're disguised as like planes, trains, and fucking tanks and army vehicles, essentially. And then the Autobots, who are the good guys, they're disguised as like cars and trucks and like normal kind of like vehicles, that in that sense. Except Megatron, he doesn't disguise himself as anything because he thinks it's like lower technology. Anyway, so I guess they're using that to disguise themselves. But what are they when they're not in disguise? There's some type of robot. Anyway, they're alien robots. And when they came to Earth, they disguised themselves, like I said, as army vehicles or cars. But there's another series where they land on Earth like millions of years ago, or a planet that has dinosaurs and animals on it. And when the Cybertronics, what would you call someone from Cybertron? Cybertronlings? I don't know. When the robots from Cybertron land on that planet, they assume like natural organic forms. So Optimus Prime is like a gorilla, Optimus Primal, they call him. Megatron he actually did become a T-Rex then. All the Decepticons were like dinosaurs, and then all the Autobots were like, what would they call them? I can't remember. Nanobots or something. Anyway, so they're these alien robots that assume form, and the toys are also those things. Like, they've brilliantly engineered these toys that you can transform them from a car into a robot. And I mean, it's just like such a cool thing. Like, it's kind of two toys in one. Just perfectly ripe for young minds just to kind of get a hold of them and squeeze every last penny out of their parents, at least. But I was really lucky, and my parents were very generous about getting me those toys. I remember my mom taking me to Toys R Us, and my dad and anyone really who would want to buy me something. But no, I remember lots of trips there and finding a toy or getting it for Christmas and just being super excited. So that it kind of came out of that era. And in 2007, when they made this, I was just finishing high school, or I was in the midst of high school. Actually, I was just about to start grade 11, which was great because Shia LaBeouf's character in the movie is in grade 11. So I think that's probably why this movie spoke to my generation so much, or at least my cohort. But it kind of came out at the perfect time to kind of capture that nostalgia. And then, of course, it was kind of going after some older folk. Like, I know my cousin who is, I think he's about like 13 years older than me. So he was born like late 70s kind of thing, early 80s. Those dudes were the ones that were really watching this show. So this was kind of that first kind of entry into like, all right, let's see what happens when we really dip into these old nostalgia things and catch this new generation that is all just turning 30, and they're gonna, like they just did it with the Mario movies, like they'll continue to do. But this was the Transformers movie, kind of cracked the crust on G.I. Joe, and then those movies based on like fucking board games and shit like Battleship and all that fucking shit like that came out. The Barbie movie is a little bit different because they kind of did a whole other thing on that. But again, just really capturing that nostalgia. The Transformers movie is actually the first installment in the series. There's 6 other movies after it: Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of Extinction. A little bit of a pattern here. The Last Knight, Bumblebee, and Rise of the Beasts. And the Rise of the Beast was kind of like a new take on Beast Wars and all that. I hate to say it because I'm doing this podcast, but again, I'm talking about the first movie. I didn't really watch, I don't think I watched Age of Extinction or any movie after that. I don't know why, nothing against it. It just kind of lost me. Shia LaBeouf, I don't think, was involved with some of them, and that kind of lost me because I thought he's a great character, and I think he's hilarious. I've always been a huge Shia LaBeouf fan because I loved Even Stevens as a kid. So, I'll always have a place in my heart for Louis Stevens. So, and a bunch of those movies was directed by Michael Bay. If you couldn't guess, if you haven't watched the movie, it's obviously directed by Michael Bay, and he's the perfect director for it, to be honest. I think he does a great job. People hate on Michael Bay. He's easy to hate on because his stuff is kind of derivative potentially, and it's so action forward and so based around the action that you don't really have a lot of room for, touchy-feely kind of actual acting. But there's something to be said about being able to distill multiple scenes or longer scenes, distill them into their perfectly digested, exactly like you're getting across exactly what you're portraying in the scene, right? For instance, in the Transformers movie, there's a scene where one of the soldiers is talking to his wife and newborn baby through a video chat, and at one point, the wife goes like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait for you to meet her. Like she's gonna love you or something like that. And the way the scene and the one line of dialogue kind of just laid out, like, you've completely set up this whole background that this soldier has a life at home. He's trying to fight. Like, we don't know this one. We don't know any of this stuff. We just watched this one scene, and boom, it's immediately laid down that this dude has something at stake here. There's his wife at home, and then all of a sudden the next moment, the next scene is his base is under attack, and we don't know if he's dead or alive. So it immediately creates these stakes, right? And again, I think, yes, it's derivative. Yes, it's simple. Yes, it's digested. But it does take effort and take skill to actually find the perfect way to do that. You can't just trim the fat and then just like send it if you don't know how to trim it. So again, don't hate on Michael Bay. He does well at what he does well at. Don Murphy was one of the producers, originally wanted to produce a G.I. Joe movie, actually after the U.S. went to war with Iraq. So he kind of wanted to, boost some morale, little old propaganda gimmick. And anyway, they pivoted and went with the Transformers instead. And I mean, again, if you watch the movie, a lot of it is in Qatar and Iraq. And it's like, this is the fucking Iraq War, man, 2007. We were knee deep, or the U.S. to say was knee deep in it. Steven Spielberg came on as an executive producer. And again, the first movie's really good. Like, you can say what you want about the whole series, but it's a pretty fucking good standalone movie. Yeah, it's Transformers, and yeah, it's weird that it's Transformers, but it's a pretty fucking cool action movie. The plot makes pretty much sense. The action is fucking there. I think the acting's really good. There's some hilarious parts. John Turturro character, Anthony Hopkins. Oh my God, no, not Anthony Hopkins. Oh my God, what's his name? He plays like the friend. Anthony Anderson. Anthony Hopkins. Oh my God. Anthony Anderson is a great actor. He's hilarious in this. There's some fucking really funny scenes with the cops busting them and stuff. But again, super funny movie, super action-packed, well balanced movie, if you will. Some nice eye candy. But just a great movie. And again, the U.S. Armed Forces and GM donated a lot of vehicles, which, added a lot of authenticity to the movie, but also cut a lot of costs. In fact, in 2007, it was the 5th highest grossing film. And just to put that in perspective, the highest grossing film in that year was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which was a crazy franchise. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, also insane franchise. Spider-Man 3 and Shrek the Third. So talk about franchisee films happening, but it was the 5th top 5 of all those films. So it did pretty well. It was also nominated for some Oscars, like in sound editing and things like that. Pretty cool. But like I said, Shia LaBeouf does a great job. I think as an actor, I think he started getting away from movies like this, which I can understand. But I think he did really well at the kind of funny, snarky, action hero in a sense. And it was like, I think he did really well. Megan Fox is in it. Michaela Baines, her character, is mega hot. She's eye candy. She does a great job. Trust me. John Turturro, as Agent Major Seymour. He's fucking great comic relief. Super funny. Does really well at the kind of neurotic government agent. I shouldn't say neurotic. Paranoid government agent. It does really well. John Voight as the Secretary of Defense. Tyrese Gibson has a great role. Josh Duhamel. He has a great job. Those guys are both some of the fucking soldiers involved. Bernie Mac has a hilarious part in it. One of the funniest scenes to me in any movie is when he's trying to sell the car to Sam and is talking about his grandma, and oh my God, it's so fucking funny. Rest in peace, Bernie Mac. He's hilarious. I just saw him in Ocean's 11 too. He's great. Bernie Mac show, tremendous. God bless Bernie Mac. R.I.P. Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus Prime, of course. He was also the original voice in the series as well. Optimus Prime comes out as a Peterbilt 379. Bumblebee's is a Chevy Camaro. Jazz comes out as Pontiac Solstice. Ironhide's a GMC Top Kick. and Ratchet's a Hummer too. So again, like I said, it's kind of a GM Motors fucking commercial. But like I said, they're the ones who donated the shit. So really cool cars, really cool shit. Especially as a young kid watching this stuff, it was so fun. The general plot is, again, it's pretty cool. Like, I don't want to knock this movie. Like, it's pretty fucking solid. Generally speaking, you know, not to get into the new nitty gritty, but I guess spoiler warning here. If you haven't seen the movie, go check it out. Come back and listen to the rest of this podcast. But the general plot is Cybertron. It starts with the backstory of Cybertron, which is, again, the Transformers' home planet. It's ravaged by a civil war between the Autobots and the Decepticons over the Allspark, which is essentially their source of life. There's something about this cube that is all the source of life for all life on Cybertron. The Autobots want to capture it to rebuild Cybertron and bring it peace, and the Decepticons want to capture the Allspark to rule the universe with, because you can create life and create whatever you want, I guess, with it. They eventually banish the Allspark into the deep regions of space, and the Allspark lands on Earth. Megatron ends up finding it, but he crash lands in the Arctic Circle and fucking freezes, which is jokes. And then Sam Witwicky's grandpa actually finds Megatron. He has a crew that's exploring the Arctic Circle, falls down a crack, and runs into Megatron. Accidentally activates his like navigation system, and then it like blinds him. But while it did that, it like imprinted the coordinates onto Sam's grandpa's glasses, which Sam then did inherit. And then Sector 7, which is a secret government agency that was created to deal with the crash landed Allspark and Megatron, actually ended up building the Hoover Dam around the Allspark. And I love movie plots that do that integrate real things within the plot, you know, real life events, if you will, within the plot. They end up finding Megatron and bringing him to that location and keeping him frozen. They basically reverse engineered almost all human technology, cell phones, GPS, all types of shit like that. All the technology, medical, military technology. And that's kind of like probably closer to the truth, because that's probably what they're doing in Area 51, which is what we've talked about in a past podcast. Go check that out. But that's what Bob Lazar talked about doing at S4 and all that, in reverse engineering technology from downed UFOs, which is really interesting. So again, cool. Artists, or some of the writers must be in the know. So somehow the Decepticons finally find Megatron, and a bunch of them land on Earth. Blackout, Starscream, Scorponok, Frenzy, Barricade, Bonecrusher, and Brawl all land on Earth, and they're trying to find the Allspark and then find Megatron. And they attack a U.S. base to find the Allspark. They end up finding the map and finding out who Sam Witwicky is, and realizing that the map is on the glasses through eBay. Actually, Ladies Man, your username Ladies Man 217. I think that was Barricade, was fucking harassing Sam Witwicky. Pretty jokes. Anyway, Bumblebee, who is one of the Autobots, is also on Earth, and he is disguised as a Camaro. He eventually works his way in, and he is sold to Sam by Bernie Mac's character, which is hilarious. Other Autobots eventually come after Bumblebee gives him a shout. Optimus Prime, Jazz, Ironhide, and Ratchet. And Sector 7 catches wind of this and ends up capturing Bumblebee. And then it's kind of up to the rest of the team to go and save Bumblebee. And then in the process, Megatron wakes up, and then a battle ensues. Sam ends up killing Megatron with the Allspark, which kills Megatron, yes, but it also destroys the Allspark. And, you know, it's kind of a bittersweet moment when Optimus Prime realizes that they're not going to be able to save Cybertron, even though he salvages a small bit of the Allspark. And then Sam gets with, or Shia LaBeouf's character gets with Megan Fox. Sam gets with Michaela. And it's a happy ending, or so to speak, because obviously they keep on making the movies. So some more action comes back. Megatron comes back from the depths. Honestly, I'm kind of inspired to watch the new movies. I know I said I haven't watched the other ones, and I kind of lost interest, but I'm going to fucking watch the new ones. I got the other one on one of the discs, so I'll fucking bop that in, check that out. But again, like, really interesting movie. Don't fucking fault it. I know it's Michael Bay and Shia LaBeouf in 2007, but it's pretty decent, man. And like I said, for bringing the idea of Transformers to life, I think it did a pretty good job. I mean, you know, the CGI isn't out of this world, but it does the trick, right? You know, you still got to have a little bit of suspension of disbelief. Not everything can be spoon-fed to you. But really cool movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, I mean, what are you doing? But go check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think it runs true to the original Transformers series. You know, if anyone knows more about that, let me know. But again, thank y'all for listening. I think today was another really fun episode. I had tons of fun talking about it. Hope you had fun listening to it. So again, thank y'all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Love y'all. Remember, there's more to you than meets the eye. Peace.